What's going on, everyone? It's Adam, your host of the Baseball World Today podcast. We have got a lot to talk about today. This for sure has potential to be by far the longest episode to date. There's even something I want to put in at the end, but I don't know if we'll have time to, so let's just get right into it and talk about as much as we can. We're going to start with Pedro Baez, just signed with the Astros, a 2-year contract. Pedro Baez has been incredibly consistent ever since he entered the league. Highest ERA he's ever had is 3.35. Entered the league at 26, which is not something you see every day, but going to be entering his age 33 season, has been consistently very good. So look for him to have a positive influence on the Astros and help that pen out for sure. Next, we're going to be talking about Corey Gluber. It sure seems a lot of teams are interested in him. I believe 25 attended his bullpen, so I believe a lot of teams will be interested. I feel like he could get a multi-year deal. I'm not really sure. It depends on how aggressive teams want to be with him. I believe his fastball was averaging around 90, which is incredible, but I think is a good sign at this point. So he'll be something to certainly keep an eye on. Next, we're going to be talking about something kind of interesting. Marcus Semien has been very linked to there's a new team he's been linked to. So we've known A's, we've known Reds, we've known Phillies. The Red Sox are now interested in signing him to play second base. This is very interesting to me. Not really something I would see coming, but it makes sense because he's a great player who can certainly fit that hole if he's willing to move there. And certainly he helps any team. His defense has been very improved over the last few years, though, so I'm not sure if moving to second will be something he wants to do, but we all know the money talks, and if he gets the biggest contract from the Red Sox, he might just be soon up at second base next year. So that's very interesting. And obviously they're not going to move Bogarts because he's their franchise guy, so that's very interesting to me. It'll be interesting to see how his market pans out. Hopefully he signs soon because he's a really great player. But so far it really looks like 4 teams are interested, and I believe if the Red Sox are going to make a push, I don't think they actually will have much of a chance to bring him back, as sad as that sounds, but we'll have to see what happens there. Next, we're going to talk about something a little bit more interesting. And it's about the teams that made the AL playoffs last year, and how only one of them, maybe 2 now, have actually improved at all ever since. Obviously, the one that has improved is the White Sox. They brought in Lance Lynn. Now they've brought in, Liam Hendricks. Obviously, they brought in Liam Hendricks, but other than the Astros, who just brought in Pedro Baez, but still that's not a net positive for them, I think, with who they've lost. The White Sox are the only AL team to improve, on top of a really good roster already. Like I've been saying, I think they're going to make a serious run at the AL Central, but let's just go through all these teams and see what they've done. So obviously the White Sox brought in Lynn for a top prospect reliever, and the thing is they don't really need that reliever, I believe, because of how stacked the pen is, which we're also going to talk about soon. Anyway, the White Sox have brought in Lynn and Liam Hendricks, obviously 2 very good moves. Tampa Bay went to the World Series. They lost their best 2 pitchers. Also traded Jose Alvarado, Hunter Renfroe, and who knows who else, because the way they might retool is by trading some of these guys for other guys. So it'll be interesting to see. Minnesota, they've lost Eddie Rosario, just cut him. It was like, let's not keep the 30 home run hitter. And Nelson Cruz is still a free agent. I suspect they'll bring him back, but again, something interesting I'm going to point in here. Ken Rosenthal believes there's going to be a DH in the NL in 2021. Minnesota has to get a deal done before that's announced, because if that's true, Braves could get after him. A lot of more teams would be open to bringing him in, I believe. So if you're Minnesota, you really want to get this done. Make it happen if I'm them. So that's just something I'm throwing in. The Yankees, obviously may very well lose DJ. Already lost have lost Paxton, possibly Tanaka. So that's possibly 3 big guys they might lose. A's, they've lost Hendricks quite literally to the White Sox, the only team that's improved. Seems like, I wrote this last night, I said possibly Marcus. Seems like Marcus Semien will be gone now, especially to me. Cleveland has lost a whole lot. They just decided to get rid of Brad Hand. Yeah, let's not sign Brad Hand for $9 million. Obviously Lindor and Carlos Carrasco. Something interesting I'm going to point in here too as well. They lost Brad Hand because I believe they thought the market value would be lower. But these Hendricks and these Blake Treinen deals, I feel like Brad Hand could get 2 years at $10 million a year. So like he might be getting more than he could have, honestly. But and obviously years. So Astros have not done anything, but they could lose Springer. They probably will lose They'll probably lose both of them. Probably Brantley too. They brought in Pedro Baez. That's not going to make many fans feel better after losing two amazing outfielders, though. Blue Jays. We have not heard anything on the Blue Jays. Sounds like they might really try and go for DJ, but otherwise we just have not heard anything on them. So, like I've said, the White Sox, give credit to the White Sox here. You have to give credit to them. They are putting themselves in a position to win their division. All these other teams, the thing no one likes about baseball the most, I think, is how unwilling teams are to spend. In the NBA, we have a ton of people making moves day one to bring in great players. It's within 2 days, all the real players are signed, honestly. So, but in the MLB, teams are just waiting too long to sign. I get it. It's different. It definitely is. That's because it's different so much because of the size of the contracts. Because it's one thing to sign Anthony Davis when he's like 27 or however old he is to a 4 or 5 year deal. It's another to sign, let's say, let me throw out a name. It's another to sign Nelson. I don't even want to say Nelson Cruz because it's only a 2 year deal. Let me think of it better. It's another to sign Springer. No, this is the best of them. It's another to sign DJ to a 5 or 6 year deal when you're the Yankees and you know pretty soon you're going to have a lot of players up for free agency who are going to be young and probably better. So that's what makes it so different. But the thing is, the White Sox are just put themselves in such a great position to be able to get out there and make these moves, have a young team with a lot of cheap players, quite frankly. And these other teams are just waiting around. I feel like the A's, they're not a team that can really wait around and just let stuff happen because they've already lost Hendricks and probably Marcus Semien. They got to get after it. Tampa Bay, I'm sure, will make moves. They always make the correct moves, so I'm not really concerned about them. But Minnesota, how have they not brought back Cruz? If the NLDH gets announced, I bet they lose him if he's not re-signed already. So they have got to get on that. Man, kind of disappointing for all these teams. Obviously, Cleveland won't make the playoffs this year. They realize they're not good enough to win a World Series, so they're kind of retooling, but kind of a shame they never could. But the White Sox, they added Liam Hendricks to this incredible bullpen that we need to talk about because not enough people are talking about how good it is. So let's just go through the top guys in there. Obviously, we're going to start with Liam Hendricks, ranked number 1 on the shredder as the top reliever in baseball. Then we also have someone who's number 8 on that list, Aaron Bummer. The second highest ground ball rate in the last 2 years, only to Zach Britton, 72%. Lefty out of the pen, wow. Listen, those two guys back there, obviously pretty incredible. Something interesting here in the article I'm reading, averages 8.5 inches above average per sink on its sinker. So like that ball moves insanely a lot. Obviously, the sinker is going to make it nearly impossible to hit something that moves nearly 9 inches and understands all the ground ball rates. Garrett Crotchet. This is a guy basically no one's heard about. He averaged 100 on his fastball in his 6 major league innings last year. He came up at the very end through 6 innings. Remember, this man was signed in June 22nd. He was drafted in June and signed June 22nd, already in the major leagues. He made his debut on September 19th, through 6 innings in the majors in the regular season, through average 100. I'm sorry, I'm going to call it around here. Look at this stat. There were 311 pitches thrown at 100 miles per hour or faster in the MLB. Crotchet threw 45 of them in 6 games. Man. So this is certainly a guy, also another lefty. So those two lefties, that's dangerous. Not a lot of teams have that. So This is a guy who, by the way, is only a rookie and it's just going to get better and better at least. Like, already in the majors at such a quick rate is so incredible to me. Next, we got Cody Hoyer. He averages 98. Not as impressive as some of the other guys. Listen, lowest weighted on base allowed, fourth lowest, 200. Maybe not considered a top guy, but he goes 98 with sync, has incredible in-depth stats. Another just, we're 4 deep of incredible relievers. And we got another, Evan Marshall. I didn't know about Evan Marshall before I read this, which I think is so incredible. Like, this team is just so underrated in their bullpen, I believe, that it's just going to make things so dangerous. Oh, by the way, Hoyer was also a rookie too, along with Crotchet, so those two are just going to get better. Evan Marshall has struggled throughout the past with other teams, but in 2020 threw 70% of his pitches as fast as changeups or curveballs, and ever since he's been incredible. Man. So this is another guy, and we got another. This is their 6th great reliever. I'm not sure if I want to say great really, but you get the point. Matt Foster, 31 Ks in 29 innings as a rookie, and 15 of his first 32 batters he faced. Man, he's the lowest one of the group, averaging 94. Oh boy, like compared to these other guys, but his other pitches just go so long. Only allowed 3 extra base hits last season. Man, this has been just such an incredible. This pitching staff is incredible. I know, like, a lot of people don't love Keuchel and Lind, but they've been very serviceable. Again, I really hope Kopech can give them something. I'm not really sure if he can, though, but that'll be interesting to see. I'm looking to see if I missed any of the other starters. I feel like I did. I feel like they have one more good starter, and I'm going to be annoyed that I missed him. Dylan Cease is a guy I've liked, honestly. He has always had some good stuff. Oh, Lucas Giolito, Adam. Like, this guy was incredible last couple of years. So that's a good starting 3 in the rotation. And then this bullpen can just carry them to so many wins, I feel like. Lots of interesting pitchers in the staff, and it's going to be dangerous. Just make sure you know that. Keep a watch on this team. I think if they hit it all, they're easily going to win the Central. I think it's just a matter of their younger guys putting together some good seasons and making sure they hit enough to make the playoffs. A huge shout out to Mike Petrillo. I know you should all follow him on Twitter if you don't already. Tweet some really interesting stuff. I got a lot of these notes off of his article, so I know he won't see this, but I hope he knows I appreciate it. Now we're going to talk about now we're going to steer away from the AL a little and talk about the NL. I believe currently, I'm talking right now, the 4 best teams in baseball are from the NL. I truly believe that. I believe the top 5, the 5th would be the Yankees, but after losing Tanaka and DJ as of right now, I would have to say the 4 best teams are from the NL in all baseball. Furthermore, the 4 best teams in all baseball are from 2 divisions. That would be the NL West with the Padres and Dodgers, and that would be the NL East with the Mets and the Braves. Braves might be my pick to win the World Series right now, honestly. I think they're so underrated, but I wouldn't say that right now until they bring in another guy to be in left field or then potentially DH. I think if they bring back Ozuna and then get a good replacement for Duvall, who was very good last year, by the way. Can't believe he's not signed yet. Then, yeah, they'll probably be my pick. But as of now, flip a coin with all 4 of them. They're my best 4 for sure. If I had to bet, someone out of the NL would definitely be winning the World Series. In all these 4, I can't say that. Actually, I can. All the 4 of these teams have definitely improved this offseason. Braves brought in Morton, obviously, which even with the loss of Ozuna, I think Morton's a net positive, and also they'll get Soroka back, so that's why I see the positive. Mets obviously brought in Lindor and Carrasco, and probably another reliever pretty soon, if not Springer also. Padres brought in 2 incredible starters in Snell and Darvish, obviously. And the Dodgers, they've actually improved without doing anything, I think. They kept rested David Price back. Who else forgot David Price was on the team? I saw him throwing on Twitter the other day, and he looks as healthy as he's ever been. So, man, let's just throw David Price in the rotation to the World Series winning team. That's going to be scary. And then I definitely think they'll find some sort of certainly a great player to fill in at third. So, it's going to be dangerous, man. It's going to be dangerous. Right now, I'd probably have my fifth team as the Yankees, but if they don't make any moves like I expect them to, if they don't make any moves like I expected them to, then the top four have got to be all from the NL right now. I don't really see how you can say it another way. I mean, you certainly can, but I certainly believe this to be how it is, and I'm going to stick to it, I think, unless something big happens. Not much else to say about that, I think. I mean, it's kind of incredible that I've generally always have thought the AL has been a bit better, but man, kind of crazy to see. Potentially 4 of the best teams in baseball in 2 divisions, which is another reason. Please, expanded playoffs, Rob. That and DH in the NL. But, little side note here. Cole Hamels set to throw a bullpen soon. He's a free agent, only made 1 start last year. Age 37 season, though, so we'll have to see if he's got anything left in the tank. That'll be interesting to see, I believe. But now we're going to talk about the top 10 catchers. And by the way, the time of this being recorded, the center fielder list has been released, so hopefully we'll have time to talk about it. So let's just get right into it. We're going to just read off the list, and then I'll go break it down step by step. Number 1, JT Realmuto. Number 2, Yasmine Grandal. Number 3, Will Smith. Number 4, Wilson Contreras. Number 5, Sean Murphy. Number 6, Austin Nola. Number 7, Salvador Perez. Number 8, Travis d'Arnaud. Number 9, Mitch Garver. Number 10, James McCann. So I'm going to start out with some notable omissions from that list. So, first of all, no Kristen Vazquez. Kind of surprised me. He's always been a very solid defender, and his numbers offensively have looked good. But we got to remember it's the Shredder, which is basically a computer program that calculates this. And Kristen Vazquez hitting measurements like exit velo and launch angle have never been that kind to him, and certainly you can see that when he plays, because he's kind of the king of the shallow fly ball over the right fielder's, the second baseman's head. But I'm kind of still surprised he didn't sneak onto the list with all his defense. But I guess I kind of don't really see who he'd make it over. Maybe Mitch Garver, says he's coming off a very poor season. But another interesting one, no Gary Sanchez. Now obviously this makes sense considering how bad he was last season, but I feel I thought there might have been a chance he sneaks on due to his exit velo, but his defense and his strikeout rate are just too much to bury him, I believe, and that must have been it. So I wonder if 11, 12 would have been, if it would have been Vazquez and Gary, or maybe someone else I missed. But let's go from the top of this list now. Number 1, no arguing, JT Realmuto, without a doubt. Nothing to say here. Can't wait for him to sign, and we can talk about that. Number 2, Yasmine Grandal, the catcher for the incredible White Sox staff. He had for the last couple of years been fighting with Realmuto to be the number 1 catcher for me, but he's not that he's taken a step back, but he's certainly behind Realmuto at this point in his career. Yasmine is still a great all-around player, defensively, offensively, but at this point, problem is, it's just simply this. He struggled last year, 230 average, but not that that's the be-all end-all. 773 OPS compared to 850 the year before, so a bit of a step back. But still good offensively, especially at the catcher position, and still a great defender for a great staff. Number 3, Will Smith. Yeah, I gotta agree. Really young catcher that the Dodgers, he's just going to keep improving, I believe. Oh boy, I'm looking up Will Smith in Baseball Reference, and there's 2 of them. Oh, I got the right one. Hit 290 last year, 8 homers in only 60 games. Only 37 games for him, actually. Wow, that's pretty incredible. 980 OPS. 907 the year before. Only problem is a very, very, very small sample size. But I gotta agree from what we've seen. Number 4, Wilson Contreras. I would agree with this one too. I've always really liked Wilson Contreras. Took kind of a step back next year, but I'm hoping he gets traded to the Marlins and he'll have a really good bounce back season and prove that's where he belongs. Now, number 5 is where I was like, just kind of shocked at first, but the more you look into it, the more you understand it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, I mostly agree with. There's one in the back end that I'm going to talk about once I get there, but Sean Murphy is maybe the best pitch framer in all of baseball, and you've probably never heard of him, and that's okay. Member of the A's, but has also had an OPS of 843 throughout his career. However, that's only through 63 games. So, man, what I have to believe here is that his numbers, like exit velo and all that, must be incredible. And then his defense is just so next level that defense alone, I think, would get him on. But the solid hitting to start, I understand. Austin Nola, Aaron's brother, very good player. Improved massively once he joined the Padres, and I thought that was a pretty interesting move. But yeah, they had faith in him, and certainly it's going to pay off. He'll be a catcher for a great staff next year. Number 7, I did not realize how good Salvador Perez was last year. Now, it's kind of surprised that he's 7 for me that he is 7 right now because he missed all of 19, but he was incredible last year, still a great defender, so it's very understandable to see him here. This is really my only gripe so far, other than like Vazquez maybe not being on. Travis d'Arnaud, number 8. I think I'd have him 3rd. I really do. When I was watching last year, I thought he was the best catcher last year, just straight up. And I saw it even more in the playoffs, so. Oh, also now something I'll mention really quick. No Yadier Molina. And interesting, I saw a report today saying that if the Cardinals lose him, I feel like they're going to really hurt, that it'll hurt more than they realize, but I mean, obviously, though, he's been there forever, but let's look at Travis d'Arnaud. 321 batting average, 9 home runs, 920 OPS. I think offensively, he was the best catcher. He must have been the best catcher in the MLB. The only problem is the years before, he was solid on the Rays, absolutely terrible throughout his career, though, with the Mets, so I feel like that must be bringing him down, but I feel like if he stacks up another good season, that he'll be right up there for me, maybe even up to number 2. Last year, I really thought he was the best catcher in the baseball. I can't say that for any span of time. When we're predicting what could happen next year, yeah, I definitely take JT, but last year I thought he was the guy. So that's just what I'll leave it at. Maybe because I biased since I saw him a lot in the playoffs, but I feel like he's being done a little dirty here, being so low. Next, we're going to talk about Mitch Garver. Mitch Garver has been a solid hitter throughout his career, but was pretty abysmal last year. Twins are going to need a bounce-back season, but also with the defense, he certainly has earned this spot at number 9. James McCann, the new Mets addition, number 10. Certainly agree, solid defense, much improved hitting. I'm not sure if the hitting is going to be so sustainable, though, since he was a pretty abysmal hitter in Detroit, but we'll have to see what happens. I certainly understand this. And the honorable mentions, of course, for me, Vazquez, Yadier. And, not really Gary, but, kind of, because the exit velo, so, yeah. So, we're going to actually take the time to, one more thing before we get into it. We're going to talk about the center fielder list to wrap up, but also it really seems like Benintendi is going to be trading next week. That's going to be a very sad podcast for me, but unfortunately one it seems like I'll have to make. So watch out for me, guys, because I'm gonna be hurting. I'm gonna be hurting. So let's look at the center fielder list, alright? So let me just pull up. So let's just start from the top, read it through. Mike Trout, number 1, Bellinger, number 2, Springer, number 3, Verdugo, number 4, even though he hasn't played center field. Nemo, number 5, Kyle Lewis, number 6, Number 7 is Ramon Loiano, 8 Trent Grisham, 9 Starling Marte, and 10 Byron Buxton. Let's talk about this for sure. Number 1, Mike Trout. Number 2, Cody Bellinger. If you don't agree, I'm not sure what to tell you. You gotta watch more, quite frankly. It's just the truth. Number 3, George Springer. I certainly agree with that. He's been a great player throughout his career, defensively, hitting, any spot in the lineup. We all know why George Springer is wanted by so many teams. I shouldn't even say so many teams. Wanted by the Mets right now, even though they just brought in Lindor. So, Alex Verdugo is an interesting one because he doesn't actually play center field. At least he didn't last year, but I feel like if you're counting him in this, the placement is correct. He's coming off a really great season. A very underrated season, I believe. I believe like the placement really does make sense for this list, but I don't know why he's on this specific list. Verdugo, though, last year 2.2 WAR in 60 games, really good. 844 OPS, 308 average, really great leadoff guy. Along with 6 home runs, something I expect to go up, honestly, but then again, he plays in Fenway, so that might be tough. Number 5, Brandon Nemo, a guy who's going to be an integral part of the Mets. Also interesting to note, he might not even be playing center field next year if they bring in that someone, but for now he is. 2 WAR, 280 average, 8 home runs. Something about him, though, he walks, and he walks. 404 on base percentage, 888 OPS. Only gripe I kind of have with this is he's not the best defender at center, but I think this placement makes sense. Number 6, we actually have a rookie, Kyle Lewis. Many of you might not know about him, but man, this kid was incredible last year for the Mariners. Let's look at the stats right now. 11 home runs, guys. 11. 1.7 WAR. Incredible stuff for a rookie, I gotta say. Only problem was the average and the walk rate weren't as great, so his OPS only came out to 801, but he's certainly going to be on the come up as well. Definitely a guy to watch out for. Makes sense here. Number 7, Ramon Loiano. An incredible defender with an incredible arm. The bat has been catching up. Elite base stealer. Great spot for him to be at. Trent Grisham. Many people will think of him as the guy who missed the ball in right field in the playoffs in 2019. Yeah, 19. That allowed the Nationals to move on. Luckily, the Padres saw through that and traded for this guy, and he responded with an incredible season, quite frankly. A simply quite incredible season. Where is it? So that he's only 23 right now, we gotta remember, and still put up a 2.2 WAR and 808 OPS. And despite that play, he's a quite solid defender. Another guy who I expect to take a step forward, hit 10 home runs in 59 games last year. He's a guy that 24 next year, he's going to have a great season, I believe. Makes sense here. We got 2 left, and then we'll talk about the honorable mentions. Starling Marte. We all remember he was in I'll say a very interesting trade for the Diamondbacks. But it kind of makes sense now since he's still on the team. Somehow led the league in playing 61 games last year in a 60-game season. That's due to the trade and getting an extra game because the Marlins were making up so many games at the end of the season that he honestly probably could have had more because of that. But anyway, I think Marte is a good player, but I'm not sure he's this high. 770 OPS, not the best defender. We'll talk about guys who could have replaced him in a sec, but we'll get to our last guy, who is Byron Buxton. I've kind of had given up on Byron because I've been hearing pretty much all my life that I really have seriously cared about baseball that it's going to be finally his season. Yeah, since 2015, I really started caring in 13, and then he had in 18 a 156 average in 28 games. I was kind of convinced it was nearly over, but in 19, 827 OPS in 87 games, 39 games last year, 844 with elite defense and speed. This guy's just got to stay on the field and be able to play. He's only played 432 games in 6 years. And majority of those came in 2017 when he played 140 of the 162. So if this kid can just stay on the field, then I think he's going to be able to do whatever you need from him. But until then, it makes sense here. It really does, I think, with who my honorable mentions are going to be. But yeah, man, I hope this guy can put together a full season. If he does, he might be all the way up to 5. I mean, you could peg everyone up if you want to, because Verdugo is just simply probably not going to play center. I guess it's possible he does, but I certainly hope not. But let's talk about some honorable mentions. Let's start with Jackie Bradley Jr. Not saying this guy, I feel like there's a certain argument for this guy to make the list over Marte. Jackie last year, 287 average, 2 WAR, 7 home runs, with an 814 OPS, one of his best offensive season since he was an All-Star in 835, with an 835 OPS in 2016. And the defense is just elite. Somehow only has 1 Gold Glove. I guess that you can chalk that up to playing the AL with, I shouldn't even say Trout, but Trout, Pilar, Kiermaier. Kiermaier also didn't make this list, but his bat doesn't measure up to the defense, so I can't put him as high as Jackie would be. That was a bit of an interesting omission. I think he should have been about 10 and replaced, who is it? Marte. So that's what I would do, but we'll talk about one more, which is Aaron Hicks. This is an interesting one. Has one of the more interesting contracts, I think, in the MLB of a 7-year, $70 million, but let's talk about Hicks. His averages have always been quite poor. The highest ever, 266 with the Yankees in 17. He walks a ton, though. He walks nearly, for example, last year he hit 225, but walked enough to get his OPS on base to 379. That's way over, obviously. In 19, his on base was nearly 100 points higher than the batting average. I feel a general rule of thumb is like 80 points over the average is pretty good for walking. 90 points over in 19. Like 150 over in 20. That's almost like not good to a point because his average was so low, but like if you're gonna walk, you might as well take him. That brought his OPS up to like 800. So the problem is his defense is kind of taking a hit with the arm surgeries he had to have. His average is just like unbearably low at some points. Only 18 home runs in the last 2 years, even though that's only in about 115 games. That's got to be another missed part, is all those missed games in 19. So certainly a guy who could reappear on the list next year, but is entering his age 31 season. So, and like I said, one of the more interesting contracts, because I don't really think we've really seen a contract that's been like 7 years, but like only $10 million a year. I thought that was a good contract just because, because he walks a lot, so I think he'll always have some value. But I thought it was such a good contract because, okay, you get him for 7 years, but only at $10 million. How much is $10 million going to even be in the MLB by, like, let's say, okay, so, like, I was thinking this at the point, but obviously COVID hit, but, like, at the time you're thinking, how much is $10 million going to even be in the MLB in 2024? So I still think it's a good contract, even if he's going to be pretty average through until then. But anyway, yeah, I believe that's all I have for everyone tonight. Let's just go through it one more time. Pedro Baez signed a 2-year deal with the Astros. With how long he takes on the mound, it should take about 4 years for him to complete. And fun fact, I got a baseball from him at a Pirates game in Pittsburgh, so that was pretty cool. So I've always been a fan of his, even though he takes a literal minute in between pitches. Gluber is going to get some heavy interest from 25 teams at his bullpen. Marcus Semien, Red Sox have appeared as a suitor for him. White Sox are the only team you can tell me in the AL playoff race that have improved. White Sox have an incredible pen. We've talked about it. The 4 best teams in the baseball are from the NL. I will stand by that until something dramatic happens. And we talked about the top 10 catchers and the top 10 center. Oh, one more center fielder to talk about. Louise Roberts. Kind of surprising he's not here. Let's look over the stats. I feel like he would have been a shredder darling, but Louise Roberts. I really feel like he would have been a darling by the shredder system, but so a WAR of about 2 in his only rookie season. A great defender. OPS ended up for 11 home runs. His OPS was kind of low. Hit 233. On base was only 300, which brought his OPS down to 740. I think next year he can see himself top 8 on this list for sure. It'll only be his age 23 season, so maybe even higher. He's kind of surprising he missed. I really kind of feel like Marte shouldn't have been on it, and Jackie or him could have been. But I understand, I feel like. So he's certainly a guy who I expect to have a great season next year. So yeah, that's really all I have for everyone today. Thank you all for listening. This has been our longest episode, 36 minutes. So I hope you enjoy every minute of it. Thank you for listening.